I'm going to go ahead and call our session to order, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Bruce.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn, as well. Did everybody hear me okay, just standing here?
Yeah.
I'll try to be careful, try not to be cross-talking on channel 4, please, however that happened earlier today. Mr. McCoy, would you pull up the screenshots that we have of our classroom? I mentioned to you all this morning, and I think this helps set the stage for the conversation we wanted to have with you this afternoon. In the state of South Carolina, the majority of school buildings are generally represented by 3 kind of different eras of construction. You have those that were built before the 1950s, late 20s, 1930s, 1940s, including buildings that were built by the WPA, Works Progress Administration during the Depression. We really have in our county, out of all of our school inventory, 2 buildings like that. But they're more common in other parts of the state, but we do have 2. Probably next to the modern era of construction, the next largest number of school buildings in South Carolina dates back to the 1950s. When Burns was governor, a 1-cent sales tax was put in place to build new school facilities. So if you go through the state of South Carolina, you'll see a whole lot of schools that were built in the early 1950s. The best example that we have of 50s era construction is one of the best ones is the old Hillcrest High School, Bryson Middle School. The preponderance of our facilities represent the modern era. The $1 billion that you put towards school construction and renovation. Most of our schools are relatively newly constructed. And the best program renovated all of them. But one thing that didn't happen in the renovation is the rooms don't get any bigger. So when we started to look at the idea that we might be required to have school with students socially distanced, maintaining 6 feet between that student and the next person in the room. Started looking, well, what would be the true capacity of our classrooms? It varies. And it varies both by type of building. The older ones have smaller square footage than the newer ones. But the predominance of our buildings has 800, right around 800 square foot classrooms. In fact, I think the one that you'll see at the one first we look at here at East North Street is actually 840 square feet. The minimum, the newly required minimum, when I say new, it's many years old now, is 800. But because the way buildings are laid out to ensure that a room is 800 square feet, there are going to be rooms that are bigger than 800 square feet. But that's pretty much an average size classroom. Within, especially at the elementary and middle level, we don't really have rows of seats anymore like they did when Horace Mann was defining how schools ought to be. We do have some chair desks, but many of our schools, using the furniture funds that were set aside for that purpose, as desks, student seating has been replaced, they've gone to alternate types of student seating. So you'll see that we configured rooms using classroom student chair desks, little desk, separate chair, or it could be a combined unit. They both take up the same amount, basically the same amount of space. Or tables of various configurations and sizes. And what you'll see as you look through this, and we'll send you a copy of all of it. For example, in these classrooms, you can see how many students maintaining the 6 feet you can get in there. For example, in room 216, you can get 13 students with a round table and chairs. In the desk and chair combination, you can get 18 students. Jeff, if you'd scroll up. That's what it looks like. Well, I think there's one thing that immediately stands out. What's not there? All that stuff that teachers have. When we went in those rooms, we took a bare room, nothing in it except the casework that's built in, placed a teacher desk and a file cabinet in that room, and then our facilities people laid the rooms out, facing the long wall, facing the short wall, on a diagonal, on a right angle, each way that you could lay them out, to maximize the number of seats you can get in there using different seating configurations. You see what that looks like. Everybody can still see the boards. You don't have to, when I say the board, not the chalkboard, but whiteboard. Jeff, can scroll up. There's a 5th grade classroom, rectangular tables, 11 students. Going up. Same layout. There's Augusta Circle. First grade, you get 15 in that particular first grade with chair desks. I think the previous example, East North Street, you get about 18 in the room with chair desks. So you see what that looks like, you see what's in the room and what's not in the room. There's a 2nd grade classroom, you get 12 in there using these trapezoid shaped tables. Another shot of the same classroom. Bryson Middle School. There's a rectangular table and chair set up that accommodates 15 students. Another couple of shots of the same layout. 16 students using the chair desk. One more. There were some videos embedded. I assume we skipped those, but we'll send them just video where they swept the room and get a better view of it. So if someone said to us, tomorrow you must start school and you must maintain social distance, you see based on the room size, the furniture placed in it, we could get as many as 18 or as few as 11 in a particular class. That's obviously a limiting condition. We talked earlier today about at whatever point the state takes a stand on whether you must socially distance on a bus and what that looks like, how in the world we would ever get all those students to school and get them back home before, I know Johnny Carson's not on anymore except for 3 months, before whoever's late night now, guess they're all at home right now, but any of the late night shows, before they were over, we might get them off. So if we must maintain social distance, it creates a situation, a condition where it is virtually impossible within the structure of the current setup to get them there. And then there's no way to have students in class in larger numbers than what you see represented in these various examples. Might there be a room somewhere we can get 19 in? There might be. But this is a pretty good cross-section of the kind of rooms that we have. And not only the kinds of rooms we have, but the kinds of rooms that are represented in every school district in the state of South Carolina. So we also provided this information, and Mr. Sailors and Dr. Turner shared that, their respective committees within SC Accelerate ED. And yesterday, as a part of the superintendent's input into those recommendations, we shared it yet again from our superintendent's group. So if we can't have everybody there, how can we teach students that are not there in the numbers we assign them to classes or teachers, and they can't be there either all day or every day? I think we did a very good job on a short notice to go from in-person to everybody at home. The two easiest things to do, as much work as that was, the two easiest things to do for everybody to be at school or for everybody to be at home. Because you don't have to worry about any kind of in-between. We don't have teachers that we can assign to be the virtual teacher and another group of teachers to be the regular in-person teacher. For one, we have no idea how many parents or students may choose not to be in regular school when regular school starts. We have no good way to forecast the health conditions or the public attitude 2.5 months into the future. There was a poll released today, Franklin, am I correct about this, a USA Today poll that indicated were this happening today, a return to school, 20% of teachers would not be comfortable coming back. 60% of students or their parents would not be comfortable in having them come back. Now, that's a national poll. I do not know their sample size. I only know the summary. Now again, confidence can soar in 2 weeks, or in a month, or in 2 months. Could go the other direction. We know based on our experience with virtual learning, with the high degree of connectivity we have, we could have a much more rigorous virtual program and have higher expectations for student attainment within that program and still address the concerns of students who are not reaching those levels. We can do more than tread water in the virtual program. But we've only got one set of resources to teach virtually and in person. And to schedule that, where we might go from virtual to in person, to everybody being in person, to only some people being in person, we have to set a framework early on. Because it will take the summer to fill in the framework to ensure that we're prepared no matter what next fall looks like. So what we want to share with you in just a minute is that framework. Now, what we would not want anyone to do at home that might be listening to this, or the media that might be listening to it, or even one of you who might be listening to it, to immediately believe we're going to do schedule number 3, schedule number 4. We're sharing it with you so you will have an understanding of the framework that we're looking at, because as we begin to move forward, to fill in that framework so we can move however we need to move whenever we need to move. That's going to take a lot more work by a lot more people. We don't want you to hear indirectly about that. For one thing, we can't do any of these frameworks except go to school on a regular schedule without having a whole bunch of regulations waived or acting under an emergency order. Well, one of the two situations would have to exist for us to do some of this. But we don't believe that we can do the best job that we need to do to provide the most we can provide for our students if we don't start the preparation now. So we've vetted this schedule through a select group of principals first, through all the principals secondarily, and through our teacher forum, to figure out, does this in fact work from a standpoint of logistically, will it work? We now know the answer to that is it will work. It gives us the flexibility to move any direction that we need to move and to have it ready to go and literally move from one end of it to the other or any place in between the two extremes, basically overnight. Some moves might take a day in between, but basically overnight. So Jeff, if you would put that schedule. All right, we refer to it as a flexible option. It is both flexible and it has options. I like to think of it as the wishbone, because you can draw a wishbone that links the two together. All right, so if you look from left to right across the top, the very first line are days of physical attendance. 0, 1, 2, 4, 5A, 5B. There is no 3. 3 is too hard for anybody to try to keep up with. But 3 would mean you come to school 3 days one week, 2 days the next week, and have to keep up with when it was your week to be there 3 days and 2. It also creates some other issues. All right, on the 0, that's pretty easy to understand. That's what we're doing right now. We're in 0 days of physical attendance. Monday through Friday, 0 students present, all students e-learning. On 1 day per week, column 1, you'll see there are 4 groups: blue, red, green, and purple. 1 each day. None on Friday. That means all the students are divided into 4 relatively equal groups, because they're not born in equal numbers, so they're not always going to be exactly equal, but relatively equal groups. And you would have 1/4 of your class physically present each of the 4 days, Monday through Thursday. And on Friday, you would do e-learning part of the day and planning part of the day. This also allows for some students to be there in person none of the time. Okay. Column 2, it is 2 days a week. Blue and red are paired together, and they come every other day, Monday and Wednesday. Green and purple are paired together, and they come every other day, Tuesday and Thursday. No one comes on Friday doing e-learning to support what went on during the week, but also if there's somebody whose parents choose for them to stay at home. You could not come at all and still, now I would argue you're not getting as much as if you participate in the days you can come to school. All right. The 4 column allows for everybody to come Monday through Thursday. And on Friday, they all stay at home, allowing Friday and part of their planning time each day to be devoted to e-learning for those that choose not to be a part coming to school at all. 5A is what we do. 5A is what we've done since Harsh Men's Day. 5A is a regular schedule. Everybody comes every day and goes to all their classes. We do no e-learning other than a student that's enrolled in a virtual course, single course. 5B has every student coming every day, but requires that they be dismissed early. Elementary, 90 minutes early, middle, an hour early, and high school, an hour early. What happens in that schedule is that hour early, hour and a half at the elementary level, allows that same group of teachers to provide an e-learning platform for students that do not choose to come to school at all. Every one of those, except everybody at home, in column 5A, which is no e-learning, every one of those requires teachers to utilize a part of their planning time each day to do e-learning. And it makes up for that on Friday. Friday morning, they would do a block of e-learning for about 2 hours. And the remainder of Friday, they would do the planning that they didn't do earlier in the week. It also requires a little more planning to be able to do both of these structures. Now, that's still with a lot of framework being provided by Mr. McCoy's group in academics for the virtual part. We would set up our schedule with every student in one of 4 groups. That's how we start the year. Now, if we do 5A there, nobody really even notices that. But the reason you do it on the front end is so at any point in time, you can break it back into those 4 relatively equal groups. We know historically what 25% of the alphabet looks like. So we would break them into A, B, C, D, or purple, red, green, and blue by the alphabet, which would keep families with the same last name on the same group. So if your last name starts with a B, you'd be a blue with your elementary student, you'd be blue with your middle school student, and you'd be blue with your high school student. So they're not going opposite days from each other, because the most common denominator they have is last name. Then those that were exceptions, you can go in there and basically hand schedule. By doing it this way, it helps fix the most complex scheduling issue, which is high school. You can't just take a class in high school and divide it by a quarter and tell someone to come Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because they don't move as a group. In elementary and middle school, they move as a group. At high school, just because you're in a first period class with people, you may go to a second period class and none of those people are in that class, or some of them are in. So by breaking them into 4s and running 4 schedules inside the schedule, so it looks like a teacher teaches 4 sections first period, and they really only have 1 class, then it's set up ahead of time where you can go from 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, 0 days a week. And everybody knows what color they are, whether they're blue, red, green, or purple. More importantly, the schools know what color they are. So if we were to shift, if we were to start off going 5 days a week, we have to shift down to go 1 day a week. We can do it like that. Because we know in 1 day a week, blues come on Monday. We know that within this first, second, third, fourth, fifth, 7th period, there's a blue schedule. There's a red schedule, there's a green schedule, there's a purple schedule. Now again, elementary is easier to do. They only have to work around and deal with their pull-out programs and related arts. Middle school, because they're team, they only have to deal with when they go to related arts as a group. And to minimize movement, we would have the class stay in the same room except for science lab and going to related arts, and the teacher would move, which is the model that's used at Fisher and I think also to a degree at Gordon. All right, that's the overview of what this looks like. And again, our reason for putting it out there to you all to share this with, and so people will understand what we're looking at, is not that we know we intend to start school with any one of these in August, but we know we could start school with any one of these in August or shift to any one of them at any time during the school year. So we're doing the work up front, be able to move seamlessly from one to the next, forward or backward, or from one end to the other. So now I will gladly try to answer any question that you might have.
Hold on. Wish I had gone out there before you started. Who has a question? What? Mr. Lewis.
You've given us really a multitude of options. And I appreciate your staff looking at all the different areas. If you were asked which of these options is preferable for our district to look at, which of these do you feel like you're leaning towards as the best option for us to look at, all knowing that we're still waiting on a lot of people to make a lot of decisions that we don't have answers?
I think given that caveat, the some of this might be handed to us. All right, look, we can't have this meeting here.
Right.
Got to do this. Right now, it would seem, and I mentioned this earlier today, but it may have, because there were a lot of words said this morning, it may have got lost. Right now, knowing that survey information that was just shared, it would seem to me one of those options that would allow us to do both would be the one that best meets the needs of the community. Now, the downside of that is, well, that means students would be at home either earlier during the day using 5B or some number of days during the week. That's obviously a problem for parents, but our intent is after graduation, a little in that mid-June range, see what conditions are then, but to poll our parents and see how do they feel about return to school. And we may need to do that again closer to school starting, but that would give us a starting point. But when I read that level of concern, until you actually see a poll like that, you kind of have an anecdotal. You got the two extremes. We've got a group that let's open it all back up and we're ready to go. And you got another group, I want to stay as far away from you as I can stay, and I want you to be to wear a mask, even though I'm now 15, 20 feet away from you. So we have the two extremes, and I don't think you can make public policy, nor could we make good recommendations based on probably the extremes, but we need to know where are we? What is the feel in the community? What is the level of concern? Hopefully it'll be lesser further into the summer than it is perhaps right now, or maybe in 2 weeks. That may not directly answer your question, but I think you get the idea.
I was with you through days of attendance 0, 1, and 2. And I don't fully understand in the way that I can repeat how every kid can be there 4 days a week, can be there every day for 4 days a week. Where are they when the other 4 kids? So one of those 4 letters is in the classroom. Where are the other 3 letters?
They're in the 4.
Right.
They're all there, but they're only there 4 days a week.
If I'm in blue, I'm sitting in my 4th grade teacher's classroom.
Yes, sir.
And the other 3 groups, red, green, and purple, are
Sitting there with you.
Oh, they're all in the same.
Yes. In the 4, everybody's there. The difference between 4 and 5B is in 4, we're assuming there would be some number, a fairly significant number perhaps, that chose not to come at all.
Gotcha.
So that teacher would be teaching them during planning time, and then on Friday morning, then they would have the balance of Friday to do the planning for the next week, because it obviously takes more prep to have to do an at-home virtual assignment for students. We don't have the ability to live stream a teacher in a classroom in every classroom in the district. We have the ability to do a little bit of that. So that really 4 and 5B are very similar. One, just you get out early to make up that time, and 4, you just don't come on the 5th day.
Al?
Yes.
Mr. Shannon?
Sort of similar question. Based on the configurations, if we don't get any relief from the distance rules, VDEC or CDC or Department of Ed or whoever, we wouldn't really be able to handle 4 and 5A or B, right?
That's correct. Yes, sir. We could run obviously a 0, 1, or we could probably run a 2.
And I also suspect that it seems like sense 1 or 2 would solve a lot of our bus issues. Same way. You can have more room, you might have more routes, but is that still?
It would fix the 1 for sure. 2 might be a little harder, but it would help to address the social distancing on the bus.
But we would really nearly need to have some sort of relief from both the, I guess, VHEC or whomever for the school bus distancing and the classroom distancing, if we're going to be able to take advantage of the 5A and 5B.
Yes, sir. Right now, 5A and 5B would not allow for social distance. There's just, you go back and look at those pictures of those rooms, and I said, we'll sit in those two. That's what it looks like socially distant. You can't go in there and fill in the gap with other students because it obviously defeats the purpose of it. So, yeah, I think that is, therein lies, I believe, one of the greatest challenges to this. Are we supposed to be socially distancing? And if we are, we can't do, your point, we can't do 4, 5A or 5B. We can do 0, we can do 1, and I think we can do 2. 2 takes a good bit more work, but we can do 2.
Obviously, we're not the only district in that situation. You may be the most affected by all that, but I think every school is going to be to some extent.
Everybody has what we're sharing with you today. Unless you're just going to sit there and hope it all works out like where school starts. Everybody needs to be doing something like this.
I guess that's the question. What's the asterisk for?
Jeff, was that left over from before we added 5B? You'll scroll it up and we'll see. I don't honestly don't recall. Oh, it has. There you go. And that's a little bit of a narrative that's sort of an abbreviated version of what I said.
I said last question, but real last question. I suppose certainly 0, 1, and 2 might alleviate some of the need if, with respect to teachers' return. Teachers, some of them don't want to return. So,
I would think that would provide great, to me, if I were a teacher with concerns, I'll relieve the concern if I'm only dealing with 5 or 11.
Yeah. Can you scroll back down to, was it something where the parents could choose which option? I thought I saw that at the bottom of the screen.
As long as we do 1, 2, 4, and it should also say 5B, we added 5B. If we did any of those, parents could select 100% virtual.
Okay.
Well, we wouldn't recommend it, but you can select that.
If you did any of which?
1, 2, 4, or 5B. We need to amend that. We'll amend it before we send it to you. That predates us adding a 5B.
Are you doing this?
yes,
Okay, Mr. Fay. I'm sorry, Mr. Fay, would you like me to?
One quick question. Rick, you talked about polling our parents.
Yes, sir.
What have we been seeing as a rate of response?
We had a pretty high rate of response on that first one. It's over 4,000, wasn't it?
Okay.
Now, 4,000 out of, now here's one of the limitations. The poll was online, so you only got the people that own online access. So that's upward 50,000 for us. But over 4,000, pretty healthy return. think significantly larger than the return on that state.
How much trouble would it be when we go that direction, whole families? How much trouble would it be to hard copy families who do not have broadband access?
We've talked about that, and we're still working on what might be a way to do that. So we'd like to do that, but we're trying to figure out what would be the best methodology about this.
Thank you.
And that's one way.
Well, but see, at the beginning of June, that system changes. They have to come to the elementary school starting in June.
But it's a large number. It's still, we believe, will reach a fairly large number. They'll be going to 49 of the 51 elementary schools.
There's Mr. Summer,
I have to talk.
Dr. Dr. Ball. It must have been a very powerful 5 minutes while I couldn't get in the door. But please forgive me for being slow to understand this. If you just take it for this way, elementary, middle, and high, and pretend that you're doing the option where it's 2 and 2. Like you said, we could do up to this much. If you would just help me understand what that would actually look like for you, you can grade it in level.
All right, so in a grade, for example, if you were a 4th grade teacher, in your room, you would have a blue group, a red group, a green group, and a purple group.
That made up your class.
That's your class.
Okay.
Relatively equally divided, because if you got an odd number, obviously one group's going to have one in it more than the others do. All right, so if we're going 2 days a week, your blue group and your red group will be there today. Tomorrow, your green and purple group will be there.
Doing the same thing that the others did the day before.
Yes.
And then, does that
Then-
mean they get half of the instruction that they would have gotten overall?
They will get half of the in-person amount they would have gotten in a normal setting, somewhere around a half. But that's being bolstered by what we would do with them online. So it wouldn't just be if you chose for your child to just do e-learning. Every child will be doing e-learning in every one of those except 5A. And to a very moderate degree, they would do it in 5B. But in obviously 0, 1, 2, and 4, everybody is doing some portion of e-learning. Now, I think what we mostly envision there, one of the ways that seems to work the best, is that you would do e-learning, and then reinforce that when they come in person. Now, some things might work better the other way, but most things, I think your original explanation, your original presentation, you do it virtually. Then, they can play that back and review it as many times as they want to. Then when they come in person, you can work with them individually on the part that they do not understand. Did I explain that correctly, Jeff?
So would it be that same day in the afternoon that the e-learning would take place? Or, let's say, your red and blue come in the morning, do they get e-learning that same afternoon?
On all of them, let's put the 5B to the side. It would depend on when you have planning. Because you wouldn't have it during, if you're an elementary, we use an elementary example. You wouldn't have it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. You would have it for about 5.5 hours on Friday, which is a longer time than you have now. You just have it all on Friday. You'd have 2 hours of e-learning you would do Friday morning, first thing. Then you would have the rest of Friday, teacher day, across the board, 7.5. You would have the rest of that time to do your planning, make the lessons that you would send out virtually for the next week, do those kinds of things.
In the middle.
Middle, the only difference there would be all of our middle schools have 2 planning periods. In everything except 5B, is this different? It's different from all the rest of them. Everything except 5A and 5B. One of those 2 periods, they would do virtual instruction. And then they would do the same thing on Friday morning. Friday morning, they'd have a block of e-learning time. Then they'd have planning the rest of Friday to make up for the loss of planning on Monday through Thursday.
Each child would still have the same 4 courses on their every other day.
Yes, they would follow their, not like an AB where you alternate days or classes. They would go to their courses that day. And we might have to fiddle with that a little bit if we go to 5B where they have a shorter day. Might have to move their schedule a little bit in that one. But in the others, they would just simply go for a shorter period of time.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? Mr. Meek?
If we did schedule full, all students would be there Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, not Friday. It would be getting e-learning, whatever.
Yes, sir. That would be primarily the day we would do e-learning for students that weren't there at all, and to reinforce what we did, because there's still the 4 day a week, they're obviously going to miss a day of being in class. So same scenario there. The teachers would do e-learning during their planning Monday through Thursday, and then 2 hours on Friday.
Okay, does this have to receive the waivers?
If we do anything except 5A, all the rest of that would require a waiver, or for us to be under some sort of executive order like we're under right now. One of the 2 things. So there might be a little leeway at the high school level, but pretty much the answer would be, got to have waivers, or it be an environment where we're directed, you got to do social distancing so they can't all be, which would include within it waivers.
If we had a population increase dramatically, and we did not have this emergency going on, is there a possibility we could use that and then waiver and not use all the facilities full time?
Yeah, yes, sir. I mean, it would be possible to ask for a waiver to do this for reasons other than we're in the midst of this health crisis. For example, one of the things that we've gotten out of this, our teachers, I think, are now, most of them, much more comfortable with doing things online. It can really refashion high school because you don't have to worry about, well, I mean, sometimes they do get into things they ought not to, but you should be able for a 15, 16, 17-year-old to be at home without worrying about adult supervision for that student. Unlike elementary, start in most cases, starts to shift in middle school. I make note of that exception on the front end. There's some that there might be some 22-year-olds that ought not be left on their own. I'm not sure. But yes, or what? It offers a lot of benefits. Purely virtual is not generally the best model for most people. There are a handful of people, they do pretty well with that. Most people need that in-person support from the teacher and also the ability to work with other students on things, which you can do, obviously you can do virtually, but it's not as, it doesn't work quite as well as in person.
Well, with e-learning that's going on right now, kids really don't have to get their house. They can be online.
Yes, sir.
They can be anywhere.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Wells?
So with the idea, the students, I'm sorry, I missed the first one. Would students, parents, families have the option to stay from week to week, month to month? Okay, I'm not comfortable this month, so I'm just gonna do e-learning. And kind of go back and forth.
As long as we have the waivers to do that. Yes, they could.
So the teacher feedback, did you get a group, I'm assuming the district staff kind of really, brain trust, kind of pull this together, but have we gotten a lot of feedback from teachers about the e-learning, the virtual learning, and how effective that has been, hasn't been? I mean, I guess I can imagine that there might be some people who would say, yeah, not that I'm worried about COVID, but we'll just do e-learning. And then they don't really do it as well as they might. And that instructional time is still pretty limited if you're doing e-learning. So what, did we get feedback from the teachers on?
We've gotten
that
feedback
effectiveness
on multiple occasions from teacher 4. This wasn't ready to go out to all teachers, but we use that group, because obviously, generally speaking, those are some of our best teachers. That represents the best of our teachers. And that's who we want to first vet things with. And so we've been with them at least three different times. Jeff, I met with them twice. I think Jeff met with them once that I did not meet with. So we started with this idea, we believe this can work. Then we brought in who we believe, based on experience, are the people that are best at scheduling. We sat in this room and said, here's what we're thinking. What are the problems in scheduling? So we fine-tuned that. The biggest problem is in high school. So it has to work there for it to work anywhere. So we vetted it that way.
So where do interventions get into this? So whether it's our interventionists that work with students, or at the high school level, a student who needs to go see a teacher during their planning period to get assistance. How does that happen in these scenarios?
Well, at the high school or middle school level, they still have one of the 2 planning periods they have, or if they're on a block schedule, they have half the period they have. Or they get that help virtual from their teacher. But some of the questions that you might have, or some of the questions you might ask, those are things we've got to fill out. We know this will work. Logistically, it'll work. We know we can teach this way. Now, how we deliver those interventions, well, we're delivering them now in a virtual setting. And really in a virtual setting where we're limited in the contact. So we are delivering interventions. This environment allows it to be delivered more easily than the environment we're in right now.
Ms. Morrison.
My question, on choice number 4, when you said that the teacher is there and all of them are with her, what does that mean? All of those classes, all of the classes that she teaches?
Now, remember that it's one class and we've divided it for our purposes into 4s. So if that teacher has 21 students, there are 5 in blue, 5 in red, 5 in green, and 6 in purple. But they're all in there with her in the 4, just like they are on a regular day.
In the same classroom?
Mm-hmm.
So we're not practicing social distancing?
You cannot practice social distancing if you're doing 4, 5A, or 5B. The only way you can do social distancing is 0, 1, or 2.
Oh. So we're hoping that we won't have to do that if we use 4.
Well, if we have to do social distancing, we cannot do 4, 5A, or 5B if we are required to do social distancing.
Okay,
or the circumstances dictate we should do.
all right. No, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. If, let's suppose there were guidelines from CDC that you really ought not have a regular classroom together. It's, we've had a wave and we're expecting another wave. How does it set us up then to ask parents for their preferences if our intention is to follow the safety guidelines that we are given from the CDC or the medical community, and you as superintendent and this district and board are saying, we're going to, as close as possible, track the safety recommendations and do those, well then it makes people think that this is kind of a, well, maybe I prefer online, or maybe I prefer to be there every day because my child likes to be with his friends. It just seems like it sets us up to disappoint people more.
Well, perhaps we didn't, and that's a reason to explain these things. You can, as a parent, in all but 5A, which 5A is school as usual, in all the others, you can choose one of two things. To do what we're doing, which we will decide, not the parent, based on the circumstances presented to us. You can either do that or you can be online.
Okay. So
Does that make sense, ma'am?
every parent gets a choice.
If we can operate the scenarios of 1, 2, 4, or 5B, every parent can choose the schedule we're running or e-learning 100%.
So why would we?
But they can't pick, if we're doing 1 or 2, they can't pick to come 4 days if we're doing 1 or 2. I think that was maybe the question.
Yeah, so the survey becomes relevant then if we know we're not doing 5A.
If we were to get a survey back just before school starts that mirrors that survey that was shared just a minute ago, I would think we'd have a very difficult time doing 5A.
Oh, sure, but I guess I'm just saying, can you pick a circumstance where we would do 5A? Unless things change very significantly.
If everything changed dramatically and there was no requirement to socially distance and things looked much better the 1st of August, that would be a circumstance where we could do that. And the idea behind this, if we do all the work on the front end, which we've already begun that work, but we continue with that, then first day of school is August the 17th. If we had to, on August the 16th, we could decide which one of those we needed to do, if we had to.
Okay.
And if we came back in, even if we came back into 5A, regular, here's what we're doing. If in October things change and we didn't send everybody home, we could shift from 5A to 4 or 2 or 1.
Okay. I think that from what, it's just kind of a side comment of what Mr. Macon as well as kind of alluded to with that choice of online. So many people out there have talked about what we learned from this time and how business as usual is not going to be business as usual anymore, and maybe for the good in a lot of circumstances. Can you think of things that you are seeing that would make you think this is a good opportunity for us to learn what we can do through the use of technology that we never thought we could do before, that could in the future become part of how we do business?
Yes, I think it goes to the very example I gave a little bit ago. And that is where it's the easiest for us to do this. Even if we're in a 5A setting, business as usual, everybody comes every day, stays all day long at the high school. Because you can carve out and do one class, two classes, three classes. In classes that are multiple sections, you can do sections of that class virtually or combined virtual or in person. And when you're dealing with an individual student being scheduled, there is no waiver necessary, I don't believe. Currently.
So if we had, let me be very clear on asking this question. What is the difference between interactive learning and what we're calling virtual teaching? Is one where you're just looking at a video and the other where you're like a Zoom call where the teachers and students are interacting with each other?
In my view, if you're talking about e-learning, you're talking about all of those things. Some of our teachers are more capable at this point of doing this many things. Some are capable of doing this many things.
And are we addressing that aggressively as part of the preparation for these schedule changes?
That's part of this and would be, I think, safe to say, Jeff, in lieu of summer academy.
Yes, sir.
So we'd be providing those opportunities for teachers, which would give them the points they need for staff development, but we would conduct it in-house, not bringing people in.
Mr. Sutton?
Dr. Turner, Mr. Sager, is the state going to allow us or they going to tell us?
That depends on how you would define allow and tell. We don't know. Correct?
I feel like in the end, they'll let districts decide.
They're gonna want to give us flexibility. In the task force that we're talking with now, that's, the goal is to give every district its own flexibility. What works in Greenville won't work in Saluda and vice versa. So, but how they choose to frame it, how they choose to present it to us, we have to be told.
Aren't they going to have to do away with all the regulations?
They'll have to waive some of it.
I mean, when you're looking at a high school in a class, there's no way what we got here can teach a high school student how to do chemistry or geometry or even really physical ed. We all think that a decision's going to be made. Because y'all are the two that have been meeting with and discussing, and you've been associated with the State Department and with the Superintendent of Education.
Our report is due on June the 12th, or August 7th. Whether or not we get it done by then, I don't know.
Thanks, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Mr. Sutton, Mr. Meek?
Okay, Roy, sir. If I'm on the, well, I'm maybe one of the teams, will the buses be bringing the same route every day?
No, so they have to run alternate routes to fit this structure, which they're prepared to do. I mean, run them on paper. So part of what work would be done over the summer is to route to meet the blue, red, green, and purple groups.
So the route to blue would not necessarily be the same to purple.
Our biggest desire was to try to keep the families on in the same group. So that makes it more difficult to route, but they just have to route around it. And obviously you'd reduce the length of a number of routes because obviously you're putting fewer people on it. But they've got to have a routing plan for 1, 2, 4, 5 days. Now, 4 and 5 is the same route. So they gotta have a 1-2 everyday route. 1-2 every day. So they gotta have 3.
So if I'm a parent and I'm making a mistake and send my child to these blue, purple day, what are you gonna do with the purple?
Well, now the first 1 or 2 times, we'll just keep that purple child there. But if we start making a habit of it, we'll have to dress it a different way. That might not be a mistake or an oversight if you start sending them every day.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mrs. Goodwin, call.
Dr. Royster, if we have to do, the 1, 2, or 4, or any of them, are we gonna be providing the mask for the students? If we have to do the social distancing, how's that gonna work?
We are waiting to see if that is a requirement or recommendation. We have a large number of masks right now. So we bought them, get them, we haven't been aware of it. We don't know how many we might need. There are pluses and minuses to young people having a mask. If they keep handling the thing, it negates the value of it. I think that would be the greatest challenge. That's the greatest challenge for adults, not to be touching that mask. Or pulling it up or pulling it down. And so there's a lot of information that if you do that, you might as well not wear the mask. The information that seems to be most consistent by most people, individuals that have some expertise, because everybody's got an opinion, is to maintain that 6-foot distance. Don't be sneezing on people. The things you do if you know you got a cold or the flu, sneeze into your arm, but to keep the 6 feet as best you can. Now, realizing that doesn't mean just, you can pass by something and you narrow that 6 feet, but while we're sitting in here for an extended period of time, the best precaution is the 6 feet, not the mask. So it is one of countless unknowns that we have to be prepared for in order that we don't come up to the beginning of next year. We're not ready for whatever that environment looks like. What we're trying to do is to best position us, the district, to serve our students no matter what an outside entity might dictate to us. Will that be the governor, DHEC, or the Center for Disease Control, whatever entity that might be that we need to listen to or respond to. That's the whole reason to do this.
The reason why I asked that is because when we received that email from a parent who was concerned that making children wear masks somehow gives them a low self-esteem and stuff like that. That's why I was asking about that.
And somebody made this observation earlier today. It really doesn't matter what we do. There's somebody that don't want it.
Right.
It's too much, or it's too little.
Right.
Gone too far, and gone far enough. So we've tried to base everything that we do on the recommendations of experts, and where there is a choice to perhaps be a little more conservative than that expert, we might take that next half step and go above the minimum. But right now, we are surrounded by people who believe on 2 extremes. One that no one should go anywhere and do anything, and those who appear on the social media nightly news that as if nothing's happening and nothing's going on, And there is no danger to me or anyone else. And I don't believe that it is in the district, our students, our employees' best interest to take right now either of those two positions to try to be right where the health experts say we should do it. And that might be very different later in June, it could be very different in July, be different in August, or things could be more a return to normal for school to start, and then it rolled back in here in November or December. A number of the colleges are already saying, when you go home at Thanksgiving, we're going to convert to e-learning for the rest of the semester. Well, now there's not a whole lot goes on when you return for Thanksgiving to start their final exam schedule at the college. There are maybe what, two weeks of class time, but then you start doing this exam schedule when you're going to this exam maybe 3 days before you have another. But many of them are already saying, we're just going to, everybody go, and then you stay at home and we'll finish up the semester online. So there are so many things we don't know, and what this schedule does for us, it positions us to be able to do whatever up there we're directed to do, or that circumstances dictate we ought to do.
Thank you.
Hearing none, Dr. Wilson, I just have two questions. How will this affect special needs students, such as the Washington Center and so forth, autistic children, and those that have special attention?
As the case with any other special needs student,
Yes,
we'd have to look at their IEP and see how our schedule impacts the delivery of services in their IEP. And in some of those cases, they are in such small number, they might be addressed differently. That's one of the many details we've got to work our way through. Once we now know this will work, that it will logistically work. We've now let you know we're looking at it. We'll roll it out to more and more people, although Ms. Hogan and her staff have been a part of the discussion all along. But those are the kind of details we have to flesh out. What would be the exceptions? How would we handle certain circumstances within this? And obviously that takes time to do. And that's the time we'll invest over the summer to do it.
Do you see a number of teachers, if you go to totally e-learning, that would probably not renew their contracts because maybe the social media skills that are needed and the contact that is needed, that they're unable to really grasp what these students are going to need in order to be successful? I know that's a tough question.
Well, I think
know there are people out there that are not tech savvy.
right.
They're classroom teachers. And because they're classroom teachers, they don't have that knack for social development, social media development. Therefore, they're going to give them YouTube videos. Well, that's not going to cut it. This is not going to be a participation grade. This is actually going to be grades.
Yes.
So that social participation grade is out of the window. Now you got to buckle down. You got to focus on the studies. You got to focus on the subject matter, and you're going to be tested on it. So that's where I'm going with this. And how are we going to monitor all of this for e-learning? Because we're going to have to really get tough on this.
In some respects, it's easier to monitor what's going on in e-learning than what's actually going on inside the classroom. You see, it's all out there on the record. It's all out there.
Yes.
We're going to do everything we can do. Summer Academy, other things, tutorials. I mentioned earlier today, We're talking about instructional coaches. They've been very key to helping teachers through this. Many of our principals are very tech savvy. They've helped teachers with it. Other teachers have helped teachers. At the end of the day, if we have to do this, it comes to a point where a person absolutely can't do it, then a difficult decision might have to be made by that person. Just like a number of years ago, we decided we're no longer going to write you a check. We're going to deposit or check money in your bank account. We started early on. We had the luxury of being able to tell them early on. But we finally came to a point where we had to say, on this day, you will no longer get a paper check. We had 2 employees that quit, they retired. Because they did not want to cease receiving a paper check. And so we're not going to write you a paper check. It saved thousands and thousands of dollars to convert to an e-payroll. Now, I would hope it didn't come to that, but it did come to that. And we're talking about 2 out of, I don't know, at that time we probably had 8,000 some odd employees, which was maybe close to 9. I would hope it wouldn't come to that, because again, we're going to do everything we can do to help you adapt your style, your accustomed methodology to a virtual world. Now, we're still going to have people that are so adept at it that it is the greatest thing you've ever seen. And others who will simply do a good job. Just like right now, we have the teachers who deliver the information, who teach the student, who hold them accountable. And we got others that hold that class in the palm of their hand every time they step into the room. The virtual environment will be no different from that. What we have to make sure is that the bar, what we accept and expect, is set at an appropriate level, and we help people get to that level.
Well, that's what I wanted to hear. And so with that being said, if there, one more, Mr. Nick.
How are the freshmen supervising the teachers, make sure they are delivering?
I'm going to let Jeff speak more directly to that, but we don't want to sound too big brother-like. But that information's out there because it's out there on these digital platforms. Mr. McCoy?
So this time, a lot of the principals do drop in on the Google Meet sessions they have with the teachers, as the students, as Dr. Oyster mentioned earlier. We will be putting some additional guidelines in place, and a lot of that came out of teacher forum. The group who said we need some more guidelines in place for how many times we expect teachers to Google Meet for their kids a week. So that interactive learning that Dr. Ball Connor talked to, not just send a video, do some work and send it back. So our own teacher forum recognized that we need to put some more guidelines in place. We already identified. So we're doing that. And then, if we were going more to e-learning, now knowing what we know for next year, certainly, just like a principal would walk into a classroom and do an observation on a teacher, that principal would know that teachers Google Meet sessions, where they could pop in on that Google Meet session to make sure that the instruction was happening the way it would need to happen, just like the regular classroom. So while those structures necessarily all weren't in place fully this because it was new to everybody when we turned in 2 days the new instruction, we've learned a lot in that time period from our colleagues and from our teachers and from our principals. So those things are all now being documented and put in place for next year should we have to do an e-learning version.
So the principal can go online and see what teachers interacting with students or what.
Yes, and many of our principals or assistant principals are also in the teachers' Google Classrooms. So they can actually pop into Google Classroom, see what the teachers are assigning, see what the kids are doing, and they can pop in on those Google Meet sessions as well when the teacher's doing a live session with their kids.
It's great.
I just probably one question. Can they drop in anonymously?
It's not an anonymous drop-in because everything's labeled when you almost like a Zoom would be similar to that. So it wouldn't be an anonymous drop-in. It would be anonymous in the sense that they would have the link and the principal could just drop in. They don't have to request permission in that regard. But It wouldn't be purely an office.
Are all participants on video?
They are, yes, well, yes, as long as the kids have turned their cameras on.
What I'm wondering is, so the kids and principal watch.
They would probably see the principal pop in.
I'm sure if we go to total people, so, anyone else?
That's just a, pick up one person.
Yeah,
Is there mic on?
yes, I'm sorry. In the context of making chickens out of chicken droppings and finding something of every crisis, have we seen or spotted or are looking for any potential golden nuggets that we might be able to take out of this that we will be able to carry into the future? And I'm just curious if that's something.
Yes, sir. I think one of the biggest things in talking with teachers and in talking with student groups, I participated in some Google Classroom with students, teacher cadet classes, in our inter-high council. There is, I think, a very immediate ability at the high school level to incorporate some of these things, notwithstanding any of these issues. And again, I think they can be done. The only requirement we have for high school students is what policy, district policy is about high school students. An individual student's schedule is not governed by state regulation. Our daily schedule is, but not a student's individual schedule. So as long as they are actively enrolled in 4 classes, that is the only regulatory requirement from the state law. And an E class is a class just like any other class. But what seems to be most promising in these classes where they're blend teacher in person and students e-learning for some part of the time. They seem to derive both anecdotally and based on our experience in student success in courses, they do much better when supported by a live in-person teacher, either on a synchronous basis or on an asynchronous basis. They can consult with the teacher.
Okay.
That's right.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. I know we have a lot to think about, and a lot of if. I'm hoping one of these schedules will work effectively, especially when it comes to the career centers, the fine arts centers, the hands-on situations. If something doesn't work out, I'm sure you're gonna have to look at the roles of assistant principals and all the specialized people and how you will utilize them in the e-learning to make sure that it's being done properly and it's being monitored.
Right, and I think we tend to use the term principal, but assistant principals are doing some of those things.
Okay, I hope so. That being said, Dr. Bush, I'd like to thank you and the staff for working so hard and diligently in bringing these options to us. I know it takes a lot of time and effort and research, and we're just very appreciative that our district is forward thinking and always has a vision, because if you didn't have vision, we wouldn't have been able to immediately start the e-learning. So we thank you so much. And with that being said, hearing no objection, we will go on to our next meeting. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Well, and certainly if the board members have some sort of follow-up questions, that's a lot of new information.
Yes,
Send that in, we'll sort of explain.
thank you so much.
And we will send you this with the correction made, adding the 5B, and we'll send you the pictures and the layouts for how many we can get in classrooms such as this.